Hello and good evening to another FECAVA Vet Chat. Tonight we want to talk about the biggest thing there is in veterinary congress when it comes to companion animals in Europe, the BSAVA Congress. Unfortunately, this year, or last year, 2020, it didn't happen. It had to be called off for obvious reasons. But they are coming big this time as a virtual congress in 2021. The two people I would like to speak to about this are Andy Green. He is one of the directors at Pennard's Vets in Kent, a multi-site veterinary group. It's Kent in the southeast of the UK. Andy is not only a veterinary surgeon, he is also a mentor for team building and leadership. He is currently the chair of the Congress Committee, of the Congress Program Committee of the 2021 event. And then there is Julian Hoad. How can you describe Julian Hoad? Well, Julian is also a veterinary surgeon, a colleague of mine who I know for many years. The first time I met Julian was shortly after he was airlifted from Mont Blanc. That's a few years ago, but life carried on a little bit like that with Julian. He's a fantastic vet, one of the few Renaissance men, I would say, I know, which means he is somebody who seems to be able to do everything. He's a clinical director of Crossway Veterinary Group in the south of England. If he is not doing surgery or ultrasonography or repairing any of the broken equipment in the surgery, he's probably out hunting for mushrooms or advising people on poisonous mushrooms, and I don't want to know how many lives he already has saved with his knowledge. If that is not happening, he's hanging off a cliff, he is a keen climber, or he's in the kitchen cooking, or he is doing any other sort of extreme sports or scientific research or organizing stuff. So Julian is always on the move, and both Andy and Julian are my guests tonight. Hello, Andy. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Wolfgang. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Hi, Wolfgang. Lovely to see you again.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's so nice to have two of my local colleagues from the UK around to talk about this great project that is just so important for BSAVA, our organization. And BSAVA is, as most of our viewers will know, one of the largest members of FECAVA. And so regardless of Brexit, we're still sort of part of FECAVA and will move FECAVA on. So that will not disturb, will not change anything there really. And that's also the case, I think, with BSAVA Congress. I mean, I would say sort of BSAVA Congress has always been the leading CPD event of the year in Europe. There are a few other congresses that are nearly as big, but nobody really is quite as big as BSAVA Congress. And so it's always an exciting subject to talk about. Most of our viewers might recall BSAVA Congress in Birmingham. That was supposed to go on until 2020. Now, the last time in Birmingham was called off because of the pandemic. And then the plan was to move on to Manchester. So that already was a big step. And then, I don't know if Andy, do you want to tell us what happened with Manchester? I mean, on one hand, obviously, yes, we can't physically do it, but I think there's a further story with Manchester and the site in Manchester.
Yeah, absolutely, Wolfgang. it's a sort of bittersweet situation that we've got at the moment, in that we were so excited about that change of venue, and the ability to just deliver the same great conference that people are used to and come to expect from BSAVA over the decades, never mind years, but an opportunity to not to revive it, but to give it a new lease of life, to change it up, to make some new bold alterations to how we presented it, to what was in the program, to the whole feel of the experience. And Birmingham was a terrific home for so long, way before I was involved on program committee, of course. And the challenge was, with the two sites there were some logistical problems that couldn't really be overcome. And a lot of people in the background worked incredibly hard for a long time, looking at the options, and lit on Manchester Central. Now, when I went up with the committee to actually see Manchester Central, and to look round, it's a fantastic space, and it's just very, very different from Birmingham. Everything's under the one roof. The flow through the building is terrific. The space offers different options, different possibilities, and gave us a chance to reimagine how Congress looked. And we put together what was going to be a fantastic face-to-face conference, and we were really excited about it, really proud of it. Paul Higgs is the chair of the full program committee, and he was instrumental in helping to make that a reality. And of course, with the pandemic having knocked out 2020, we were hoping to be able to go ahead with Manchester Live, but it became very apparent through the summer that the odds were diminishing rapidly on that. And what we did not want was to have a situation where we had no conference to deliver. If we'd banked on being able to do face-to-face and put all our eggs in that basket, and the current situation as it is now had arisen, we couldn't take that risk. So absolutely the right decision was to change it to a virtual.
Yeah, but wasn't it also so that the venue in Manchester is now actually one of our emergency hospitals for COVID cases? Didn't they transform that to a Nightingale hospital as well?
I believe that was one of the considerations. It's a fairly important consideration.
Yes. Yeah, and heaven knows, I mean, if we consider sort of the pandemic figures at the moment in the UK, heaven knows in how far these side will be used or not. I mean, as we can see, I mean, there is so much possible now if you do it online. I mean, I think a completely physical Congress, I don't think we will ever see again. There will at least be a hybrid, or it will all be online. And I mean, whoever has taken part in a webinar or now in these online conferences appreciates there's a lot of good things that can actually be done. And I have to say, I mean, I'm one of the guys who always has to sit, if I go to a lecture, I have to sit front row, because if I don't have the screen in front of me like this, I fall asleep. It's completely wasted on me. So if I sit back row somewhere and there's somebody speaking, then it's warm and there are a lot of people in the room. Also, I switch off, I fall asleep. Whereas if I have now an online lecture and I mean, have the screen, here, have the person right there. For me personally, I found out actually it is more effective actually. So it's sad to say, because I love congresses, but when it comes to really gaining knowledge, it's probably better. I mean, physically, that's a different thing. The workshops is difficult, but with lectures, it's extremely good actually. For me, it works quite well. So
I think that's come as well, Wolfgang, with a sea change in the understanding of the way people learn. particularly people coming through university more recently. The didactic method of teaching, the long, dull, if I could say, almost monochromatic lectures, that we all were happy to learn things by rote, aren't the most efficient ways of learning, certainly not the most interesting ways of teaching. And so the ability to administer small bite-sized chunks of learning in multimedia formats, it's almost like cross-training your mind, so people are able to actually get more out of the lecture. It used to be an old axiom, didn't it, that you'd come away from a lecture with perhaps 1 or 2 new facts, and that was good enough. It was the accepted thing. If you got 1 new thing out of a lecture, that was an hour well spent. Well, hopefully 15-minute webinars will give you 15 minutes of facts that you can learn and draw from. That's the idea. And the move then to go back into a more physical environment, the face-to-face meetings, as you say, we're bound to be a hybrid sort of move. There's a term that I was introduced to a month or 2 months back. It all seems to be a bit of a blur, the learning we've had to do, isn't it, Andy, on these things. But the term apparently for a combined physical and digital conference is now a phygital. That's P-H-Y-G-I-T-A-L, phygital. And we must
there we
say,
go.
actually,
We have learned something again.
There you go. There you go. But for people coming to the Congress, we will actually be horsewhipping anyone who says that they like a phygital Congress, in all seriousness. So we'll be listening out for that.
Yeah. I would like to know, I mean, I know that Congress is just so important for our organization, for BSAVA. And I mean, the same applies for big organizations like AVEPA in Spain, for example, or for the German Small Animal Veterinary Association, for the French, for AVAC, the French Veterinary Association. We all have to rethink, how did it, I mean, what was going on in Woodrow House, I mean, over the last few months? That must have been, I mean, superhuman work, because, I mean, we were all struggling keeping our veterinary surgeries going under the pandemic. And then, I mean, volunteers like you, Andy, and like you, Julian, sort of were then sort of working also on a completely new concept of Congress. How did you do that? I mean, this is sort of making a moon landing not within a decade, but within a year, basically. So can you give us a bit of an insight?
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you have no choice.
Yeah.
When you're on a time frame, and because normally we would be working on conference for 18 months to 2 years beforehand. As soon as one conference wraps, we're working on the one after that.
Yeah.
So compressing an 18-month to 2-year process down into 6 months is like drinking from a fire hose. And you then having to learn an entirely new way of doing it. And actually, I don't know about you, Julian, I've actually found that really exciting. That's been a really slightly masochistic in respects, but it's been a fun part of the process, is actually what is possible. How, what can it look like? And to our, pleasant surprise and confirmation, actually, we're really excited about how it's going to look and what we can deliver through the virtual medium, because it's very different from what was possible even 5 years ago.
Yeah. No, I quite agree. I think the two things that have driven the conference programming, the conference assembly, have been enthusiasm and experience. And as vets, we're all problem oriented. We love to get a nitty gritty problem, don't we? And work at it. And you get those minds together over Zoom. Yeah. It's just been, as you say, it's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
It's been hard work. They've been long hours, but it's just been fun all the way through, and we've all had a laugh.
Well, I mean, it is, if you have a if you have a dedicated team together and everybody sort of pulls in the same direction. And as Andy said, I mean, we didn't have any choice. We had to do it. We have to do it, really. And so then it's amazing what can actually be done.
Yeah.
So Congress starting 25th of March until the 27th of March. So goes over 3 days. Just, I mean, we will repeat it probably at the end of the vet chat, but at the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, it's £99 for the ticket. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, yeah. And I think that is until sometimes in the middle of February or so, the reduced registration fee. I mean, that is also I find it incredible, because normally you pay for a ticket for BSAVA Congress something in the region of £400, I think. So suddenly you get it for, and I mean, there's probably no difference when it comes to the scientific program. It will still be very, very rich, but you suddenly get the whole thing for £99. So yes, obviously, as an organizer, you save on the venue, but still you have to pay for all the speakers, you have to pay for the IT and things like that. Nevertheless, for us as veterinarians, sort of, if I want to have good CPD, and that sort of I can, well, it's on my desktop for £99. I think that's really good value for money. We come back to that later, I think. So what?
Well, it's probably worth mentioning just now that actually the decision to make it at that price took a long time, didn't it, Andy? And there were very heated discussions as to what we all thought it should be. But what we really wanted was three things. We wanted a lot of people to be able to enjoy Congress, because people do enjoy Congress. That's the main function of BSAVA Congress, is to reignite people's love and interest in veterinary learning. We wanted to make it affordable, because a lot of people have been really quite severely struck financially by the pandemic, and we didn't want this to be a limiting factor for people. And we wanted and needed to make it competitive. And I think we've achieved all of that.
So agree with that.
What can we expect? Give us an idea, sort of, the program, sort of how many streams have you planned? What are sort of key streams where you would say, here, look out for that. That is one which just shouldn't be missed. What are the highlights? What speakers can we expect? Come on, give us some ideas. What is there to expect?
The key thing to expect is what you have come to rely on from BSAVA Congress, which is really high quality, practical, useful, good, solid information that you can take away and use. And when we looked at this, going from 4 days to 3 days, going from a dozen streams, and looking at what we could realistically do on the platform, what we've gone for is we have 4 streams plus an exhibitor stream. So it's 4 live streams plus an exhibitor stream. Now the live streams, what we've looked at is the key subjects that are consistently popular and that everybody in practice really enjoys and appreciates and gets big audience numbers every time. So everything that you would expect in terms of dentistry, orthopedics, neurology, cardiology. We've got the practice management streams areas as well. We're looking at recruitment and retention, for instance, which is at the moment, especially, never mind Brexit, but with everything else that's going on with a pandemic, recruitment and retention is a perennial challenge in veterinary practice, certainly in the UK. I'm sure that must be the case across Europe as well, to a greater or lesser extent. Not just, and with that, for instance, it's not just finding people, it's keeping them. So there's that in there. We're looking at the environment and green initiatives. There's a focus on the good solid stuff, but we're also forward facing. We're looking into the future to say, what does the future look like? So it's really quite hard to pick favorites, really. We spent ages last night. We spent 2 hours on a meeting last night discussing just this, or excuse me, the night before last, talking about our magnificent 7. So the top 7 must-sees for a veterinary nurse, for a recent graduate, for an advanced practitioner, for a clinical director or a practice manager. And we each came up with ours. My list was telephone director.
Absolutely. I started off with the whole program. Thought, well, I've got to knock things off. I can't knock that off. That's fantastic. I can't do that. And that's where the brilliance of IT comes in, because, for example, the live radiography streams, well, they're always popular at Congress. People always flock to them. But trying to peer from the back of the large theatre, thinking, I can see the lesion. Now he's pointed to it. I can see that. Yeah. But actually, when it's on your laptop at home, and you can enlarge it, and you can pause it, and you can freeze frame, you can really hone in on it, the ability to pick up tiny details is huge there. So I think we've all put down the radiography as our top 7, our magnificent 7 streams there. Similarly, with a lot of the techniques, we can pause the live streaming, or we can pause the webinars to really hone in on absolutely high quality, high definition endoscopy procedures and things like that tell us just what to do, not just a tiny image and an image on a screen 40, 50 meters away, but right there next to us.
How is that going to work? Are the lectures then live, or are they pre-recorded with the speaker then around after the recording to answer questions? Or is it a combination of both, or how does that work?
Very important point. So what we've gone for is, to each lecture or session, as we're describing them, which is a 50-minute session, the beginning of that, we're looking at typically 2 speakers per session. And Julian earlier was rightly talking about those 15-minute bite-sized, easily digestible chunks where you can get the key information across in a really dynamic form that's easier to retain and it's easier to engage with. So each of the 2 speakers is going to do around about a 15-minute pre-recorded piece of content, which will run consecutively, and then the speakers themselves will be available live after that for 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A from the audience, also to discuss the content of the actual delivery of those mini webinars at the time, have that conversation around what arises from that and what's coming out of the audience. So it's going to be very organic, it's going to be very dynamic. We also have 1 or 2 sessions that are 100% live. We've got a panel of 3 people, and they're actually, the entire session, the entire 50 minutes is live, discussing that particular topic and subject between themselves. One of them, for instance, is the ethics of treating cardiac patients, for instance. So that's something that can really polarize opinion sometimes. So being able to have a really good discussion there with the input from the audience as well, it's a really exciting way of being able to deliver this in a way that brings the best of both worlds. It brings the best of the face-to-face and the best of the virtual. So we're excited about that.
So we have 4 streams over, and that 3 days. So altogether, so these are 12 whole day streams, basically. Yeah, or yeah.
It's 24 half-day streams.
Yeah, 24 half days. Yeah. And does that include also a nursing stream?
We've gone away from the traditional separate nursing stream and really tried to approach the team, the practice team as a whole. So while there will be certain lectures that will definitely stand out more as veterinary lectures and more as nursing lectures, there is very much a blending that can be accessed by every member of the team.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about it, because I admittedly I went into quite a few nursing lectures in the past, actually being a veterinary surgeon, because I thought this is a good subject, and I need a little bit of a brush up on this or that subject. And then on the other hand, I mean, we see that with a high qualification level of the nursing stuff we have, especially now in the UK, but also in a lot of other European countries. I mean, sort of veterinary nurses are now specialized to that degree that they are on equal pecking with a lot of veterinary surgeons on subjects. I mean, it is the veterinary team. So there is, yes, okay, I might physically operate the gastric torsion, but I often think that, well, the more difficult job is not that what I'm doing here, but that what the nurse is doing on the anesthetic machine, keeping this patient alive, especially if the patient is then also arrhythmic or something like that. I think then, this is a little bit of carpentry or something like that, but the real difficult work is done up there. And also when I have students around, I often say, don't look at this, look at that, what she's doing. That is quality work here. So it's interesting. Is there also a possibility then, how can delegates interact? Is there also, I mean, we had in previous lectures things like quizzes or possibilities for you to say, well, I think that answer is correct, or that. So the voting possibilities. Do we have something like that also this year in 2021? Is that possible?
We're actually still actively exploring that. We're still discovering the full extent of what's possible through the platform. So I talked earlier about this being an organic process. It is very organic. And I'm kind of slightly reticent to give an absolute yes or no at the moment, because actually we may be able to do even more than I think we might be able to do. So we certainly want there to be as much of an interactive element as we can do, so that it works for the delegates. If you have something that's too clunky and unwieldy, it actually interrupts the flow of the lecture. It interrupts the flow of the discussion. So it's going to be a case of balancing that up, but we certainly want to be looking at that interactive element.
Yeah, and of course with an IT intermingling process, it should be possible to get voting systems and things up very effectively indeed. But as Andy says, the real question is how best to deploy that, rather than just saying, yes, there will be, let's all vote for the Legion in radiograph number 4. There's got to be a real thought process with the organisers and with the lecturers to see actually what's the best way of delivering that, so that people can get the most out of each webinar, each module, each session, and enjoy it as well.
With so much CPD available then at the same time with 4 streams, I mean, people will be spoiled for choice, and they will struggle to decide what to do. So how, I assume everything is recorded and then also downloadable later, and so that if you can't see the lecture live, you can see later. That is then probably accessible with the Congress ticket as well. For good or for a limited period of time? Do you know anything about that, how that is planned?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's a couple of elements to this. Absolutely, there will be the ability for delegates to access the live sessions afterwards, and that is anticipated to be for the 30 days post-Congress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What we've also got alongside the live sessions is we are having a significant amount of pre-recorded webinar content to run as well. So that's an addition, and that can be accessed at any point. And the idea with that is to actually expand on what's within the live stream, because the challenge with half a day in each of the 24 areas that we're covering is that what we'd love to do is have an entire day on every one, but we can't do that. The pre-records allow us to expand and just investigate and explore some of those areas that are being developed further. And some of those, actually, the delegates will want to go in, and potentially they'll want to start watching one or two beforehand as well as afterwards. So we've made it quite organic and quite dynamic in terms of accessing that and making it all as relevant as possible, and try and have a story and a theme running through the different streams of different modules, which again I think is going to work really, really well.
Absolutely, it's all brought together, as Andy says. There's a story. It's not just piecemeal learning here and there. It'll be along the lines of presentation to successful outcome, case driven learning in many cases. But the webinars, there's something in the order of 100 or so webinars in addition to the modules and sessions given in the Congress itself. Huge number.
Yeah.
Keep you busy for a couple of weeks.
One ticket keeps you entertained for the whole year, probably.
Yeah.
For quite a few more weeks of lockdown, if we have to experience it. So when I go to Congress, I always say 1/3 of the Congress for me are the scientific lectures, not more than that. The second third is the exhibition. The third is the networking. So that's always how I look at congresses. So with the exhibition, are we having an exhibition? How will be the experience of the exhibition? How can I interact with exhibitors?
Shall I take that one? So Andy mentioned 5 streams. We have 4 streams of lectures or of learning as such. The 5th stream is the exhibitor's stream. Now, during the day, at any stage, you can go into the virtual lobby and turn right instead of left. So rather than going towards the lectures, you turn right towards the exhibitor's hall, and the computer image on your screen will be that of an exhibition hall, as it normally is, and you'll be able to then click on the exhibitor that you want. Now, exhibitors will have a variety and range of activities, from the usual website that you may see on their sites through to much more interactive ones. Meet the exhibitors. You can organise private chats with them, demonstrations of their material. Some companies are offering practicals, which will arrange to be booked in advance, and they'll send out equipment to your home and teach you via Zoom. Really exciting stuff. But again, yes, the experience should be a very sociable one with the exhibition, that you can actually interact on a live basis with many of the exhibitors.
So that means also there will probably be competitions. There will be special offers for Congress by the exhibitors, for example, for the duration of the Congress plus X amount of days or something like that. So pretty much the same thing. I mean, the beauty I always felt when going to Birmingham is you have all the companies under one roof. And that's brilliant. I mean, rather than going through the catalog, if you want to buy a new ultrasound machine, well, they're all there. You have different people there, and you can also discuss prices with them. You can discuss sort of loaning machines to try them out at your practice. You can establish, a relationship with the exhibitors, which for me as a practice owner, I always felt it was, very, very important. So
incredibly
that
so.
is still pretty much there. And then networking. Are there also then forums alongside the lectures, or possibilities to interact with other delegates? Dare I ask, social program? I don't know. Is there something? I don't know. What else can we expect? I mean, I'm sorry if I ask for too much here, but I don't know. What else do you have up your sleeve? Come on, tell me.
What's beautiful about this, Wolfgang, is that you're asking all the questions that we asked at the very start. Is what, with a blank piece of paper to begin with, what do we all love about Congress? What do the delegates love about Congress? And obviously, there's a huge amount of data from surveys and everything else. But we've all been to lots of Congress as well, and it's just that. It's the learning, it's the interaction with you in the exhibitors hall, and absolutely the social side of it, the networking is key. So Julian is undoubtedly the king of best people to be heading up the fun stream, as sort of the fun committee is the head of fun. But as well as that, there's also going to be certainly multiple chat rooms available for delegates to meet up in, and that can be offshoots from lectures, that can be offshoots from the exhibition, or it can just be in the social area. There is a dedicated social area actually on the platform as well, and it allows a lot of flexibility with that, so you can certainly still do that networking. Julian will fill in on
absolutely. My remit, if you like, was to try and make it fun. In fact, I wanted to be called chairman of fun, but chairman of delegate experience was felt to be more appropriate. Hashtag chairman of fun. So we have a plethora of fun things for people to do on a very interactive basis. So we'll start off with something that's not perhaps very interactive, which is the platform itself will have little quizzes, questions, and treasure hunts, and panels where people can try and outdo each other on the number of lectures they've attended. We're also organising physical things, so virtual runs, fun runs. People can join in on those and become a part of the team that is doing the run by giving their times in, and we'll be awarding prizes presumably to people who are able to walk slowly enough during the run so they didn't spill anything. I haven't really looked into that. We're having yoga classes and keep fit classes during the day, so they'll be administered by they'll be accessible by recorded webinars or recorded workshops. There is a magician who's going to be teaching us some magic. That's a friend of Andy's has very kindly agreed to release some of the magic circles tricks of the trade and show everyone how to make puppies disappear and things like that. The evenings are actually going to be quite full as they normally are at Congress. So every evening of Congress and the evening the Wednesday night before Congress starts, there will be social events. Obviously there'll be distanced events, but people can join in on such things as silent discos, wine tasting, bake-offs, tasting.
How are you doing a wine tasting virtually? Sort of then you say, okay, buy these bottles and we talk you through it, or?
Yeah. There's a wonderful company that are going to send out bottles of wine, hot bottles of wine samplers to people who register.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to join the wine tasting by Zoom, and they'll talk you through the wines. It'll be as interactive as it can be. I quite like the idea of the at-home disco, the silent disco.
Yeah.
I imagine myself as a rather sad guy doing dad dancing on my own. So.
I mean, yeah. If you talk about BSAVA Congress, I mean, I come more from the international side. I'm actually talking to you at the moment from the south of Bavaria, actually, near the border to Austria. Oh yes, snow outside here. I've been snowshoeing earlier today, but nevertheless, I mean, I always see it also with the eyes of the international delegate. And one of the reasons to go to Birmingham was always, and you hear that again and again and again, that a lot of delegates said, well, the nice thing in Birmingham was one big family, good social program. You interacted with people. A lot of international delegates said, well, we didn't imagine that it was so easy to interact with these big names in veterinary medicine. They are there. And the party, sort of people like, say, Michael Day, bless him, sort of, he took, I mean, one of the Europe's most, what shall I say, high-profile speakers, shows up in the evening at the party, absolutely, and not only, I don't know, so there to make a quick appearance. No, they joined in. They were often the last people off the dance floor, and that made BSAVA Congress just so nice, because it just showed there is more to it than just sort of scientific excellence. It's also to show, well, veterinary medicine doesn't happen just in the UK or in Germany or in France. Also, it's an international thing. The knowledge we have in one country might be of use in other countries, in other regions of the world. And also the contacts you make on these congresses, heaven knows where they might lead to. I mean, there's amazing experiences in the future. So and opportunities, also work opportunities. So again, regardless of Brexit, there is still a lot of opportunities out there in research or also in just clinical practice. And that's a nice thing. At Congress, you can make these contacts. So. And social program is often the way to do it, and it's fun too. So that's great. Yeah,
it is, and the social program always leads to conversations the next day.
Yeah,
and we're hoping that'll be the same within the chat rooms. Yeah. That actually there won't just be a what did you get from lecture A or lecture B, but wow, wasn't last night fantastic? Mm-hmm. Which malt whiskey did you prefer on a whiskey tasting night and things like that? And that's the way, as you say, that contacts are forged, new jobs are engendered, and new lives are fostered out of Congress. Yeah. And you can see how enthusiastic. I can see your enthusiasm.
Oh yeah, but knowing, Julian, that you have your hand in the social program makes it very appealing for me. I mean, knowing what you are up to, sort of, I can only recommend then to sample it, sort of. And as I said, so I mean, £99, that's a no-brainer. It's a bargain. So 3 days of CPD that theoretically can keep you busy for the whole year. And I mean, it ticks also all the boxes or fulfills your CPD requirement for the whole year for UK vets. I mean, we have to do 35 hours per year, I think. And so is the whole program, if you take part in the whole program, that should pretty much be
several times over.
Yeah.
Several times over. Yeah.
What's really nice as well, and particularly, I would like to, I love just the enthusiasm in your voice, the excitement there as you're talking about your experience of Congress and the relationships and the the enjoyment and how much more you get out of that. What's really exciting about this being virtual this year is our ability to reach more people.
Yeah.
Whether you're French or German or Italian or Spanish or British, doesn't matter. We all speak the same language. We're all passionate about animal welfare.
That we do, but we don't all speak English. When you say, but nevertheless, I mean, yes, it's getting more now sort of custom that if you go to international congress, as the language of choice is English. And the beauty is, well, if you listen to something and haven't quite understood it, you let it rerun in the recording.
Yes.
There you go. So
yeah,
yeah,
you can probably run it through Google Translate.
Yeah, possibly.
For some interesting changes.
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. So if I want to register for it, I go to the BSAVA.com website, go on to Congress, or registration should be fairly easy to find, I would assume. Payment can be made through the website as well. And
yes.
in the UK, fully deductible from your practice expenses. Well, you guys should know that. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this year, or it's at least sort of in the first half of the year, I think physical meetings are probably not possible. But I think an experience like this sort of certainly sort of then raises also the interest, maybe then to have, how to call that, digital Congress, maybe then the following year. So, I mean, Manchester is then still on the long run, the venue.
It is, yes.
There is something about the face-to-face that can never be replaced by a virtual conference long term. You get hordes of bloggers and vloggers and people who live their lives online descend in their thousands to have conferences in person every year in the States. And they don't have to do that because they could quite happily do that online, but they do it because they want to get together personally. And so the beauty of that, looking forwards to a potentially hybrid event, is to look at the best of both worlds. And there's certainly, realistically, the landscape has changed forever over the last 12 months. How we human interact for information and for situations like this. And that's not going to go away, but the face-to-face element is still really valuable, and it's still, as you said, an integral part of the BSAVA experience that we're excited to bring back when it's safe to do so.
Good, perfect. Andy, Julian, thank you so much for joining me for this FECAVA Vet Chat. Again, if anybody has any more questions or would like to comment on this program, you can do so on vetchat@fecava.org. And just to remind you, BSAVA Online Congress 2021 is from the 25th to the 27th of March of this year. Registration until sometimes in the middle of February. I can't tell you the exact date. As far as I understand, it's £99 per delegate. And yes, and I hope that we will meet there. And you certainly will see Julian and Andy somewhere at that event. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and see you then at the Congress in March.
Thank you, Wolfgang.
Bye.
Stay well.
Good.
Bye-bye.